Okay, so I've got my plan view open again so I can start to make a walkthrough, and that is really the only kind of animation that you can make in Revit. But if you've heard of some of the other types of animation that you maybe can make in other programs, you might have heard about things like orbits and spins as well. And I'll give you some examples in Revit how you can use the walkthrough tool to make those as well. So first thing is knowing how to get to the tool used for animation. On the quick access toolbar, next to the little house, you've got the arrow where you'll see walkthrough. Also on the view tab, under 3D views there, same thing, you have walkthrough. So like I was saying, you really only got the walkthrough tool, but you can use it to make other kinds of animation as well. Okay, so using walkthrough, in the level that you begin on, you can simply click points to create the path that you want to follow through your building. So I'll do that. I'm just going to click a point. Let's say I'm starting over here. If you don't know this building, it's the hub in Newtown. So this is where the community centre is. No, sorry, the pizza shop, and then, or whatever it is, Mexican place, and the community centre's up here. So I'm going to walk past those and come and look in through the front of the building and then go maybe through that centre part. So I'll click on the point where I want to begin and then create some additional points just following along where I want to be walking. And each point there is what's called a keyframe. So these are the important points in your animation path that you want to be able to adjust later. And so I'll just go right through to the back where the car park is for now. So a nice simple one to begin with. And you can click the tick to finish the walkthrough, and it'll show you that path. Okay, so if I choose edit walkthrough with that path still selected, it won't show me anything very different. It's still going to show me the path that I've just created. So there are a few ways you can go and open that walkthrough. You can click open walkthrough on the ribbon, which is showing me empty space because it's at the end of the path there. But if you lose that, if you don't have the path selected anymore, you won't even have that option. So I'll show you a different way. I'm going to say yes, I want to quit editing the walkthrough. Make sure you realise that in your project browser, once you've created the walkthrough, it'll add a walkthroughs category. And there's my walkthrough, walkthrough 1. And so you can always double click on it to go to the walkthrough view. And then click on that border. That's really like your crop region. And so that will select your walkthrough again, and then you can again choose edit walkthrough. Okay, and so now, using the keyframes here, I can cycle back through those keyframes I created. So the first time, there we go, back to the inside of the walkway, back again, and all the way back to the beginning. So notice here, it tells me the frame number I'm on. So I can go backwards and forwards, and you'll see that's going to change to the number the keyframe is at. And the keyframe is a little bit arbitrary, the number, but it's based on the total number of frames, which is at first going to be set to 300. So that's really the first thing you need to understand when you're working with any animation, that it uses a frame rate. And when you click on that button that is the total number of frames, 300, it will then show you the frame rate you're using and also all those different keyframes. So, have you got any idea what a frame rate is, or what some common frame rates are? If you've worked in film or used any video cameras, you might have seen. Yeah, no, they're actually frame rates that have been used, but the one you see every day on TV is probably 30. With older shows and older film and things like that, it was either 24 or 25 frames a second. But you can see here it's set to 15. So it's lower quality than even some of the older TV, but sometimes that's good enough for an animation, for this sort of animation. Okay, so you can leave it on 15 if you like. If you want to make it smoother, you can take that up to 30, but you shouldn't need any more than 30. So, what that means is that with 15 frames a second, if we have 300 frames in total, then the total length of this animation is going to be 20 seconds. 300 divided by 15. So you use the frame count to set the length of your animation. And if you think about how long it would take to walk along that distance, well, I reckon you'd be struggling to walk that far in 20 seconds in real life. So it maybe would take a bit longer. Maybe if I take it up to 500. Okay, it's maybe just going to hit apply to update. There we are. So that'll be 33 seconds, which is still pretty quick, but maybe a better length for this length of animation. And just try to think about the walking speed or the speed you want to be moving. You don't have to be always walking speed, but that's a good benchmark. Alright, so that's the first thing, getting the length of your animation. Now I'll hit OK. And then to start looking at this in real time, don't worry if you keep seeing that message that asks you if you want to quit editing the walkthrough. It's simply because it only lets you edit it while that border's selected. And there it's on modify camera. Don't worry about that. You can always go to edit walkthrough and then see those play controls again. So I'll go back to the beginning and then I'll try to hit play, and it's going to play through at my new speed. Now this is in real time, again according to the hardware that we've got. So the computer's trying its best to play it as close to the real speed as possible, but it really comes down to the graphics hardware you've got and those other things. If I go back to the frames there and set this back to 300, it's going to travel the same length but in less time. Now it may not appear any different. It really comes down to the hardware. So you'll only really see the final speed and in its true real time when you export it. And I'll do that next. And I'll show you a few different ways of exporting, but I'll also come back and show you how to change some of these things. So there's one major problem you can probably notice with this, which is that the building there is being cut off. So before I export it, I'll go back to my ground floor plan, and then you can see the camera there, and you can see then maybe why it's being cut. Just like any perspective camera, it has a field or a depth property, like a crop distance, I suppose. And if you again have that path selected, do you know how to get the path to come up if you can't see it? I just click to the side, it's disappeared. What do I do? Well, yeah, well it's just like a camera. So any perspective camera, that's right, show camera, same thing. That's good. So if you have a perspective view and you want to see it in plan, right click, show camera, and you'll see just the camera for a still camera. Same with the walkthrough. Right click on it, show camera, and that will show you the path again. And that's important because now I can go to edit walkthrough and see the camera with its depth. So there I can drag it so that it's deep enough or looking far enough to see my whole design. And we can also then see the camera and start to get an idea why it's looking in the direction it is. So it's following the path, and that doesn't really make sense here because we're looking straight ahead when really we want to be looking at the building. So I'll drag that around and look more at the building. I'm going to go to the next keyframe and do the same thing again. The depth doesn't need to be changed again. That's still as it was, as I changed it, but the direction does need to be changed at each point, at each keyframe. So keyframes, if you're wondering, that is a real term from animation. The guys at Disney, I think it was Walt Disney actually who came up with that. So it's a thing animators use. and it's for the frames that they used to draw. The head animator would draw that, and then they'd have the lackeys to do the frames in between.
How many frames would you use in one standard?
It really comes down to the length of it. So if you want a 10-second animation at 300 frames a second, or say 30 frames a second, that's 300 frames in total. But I'll give you some more examples of different lengths. So here, if I go again to the next keyframe, it's a bit better. It's looking in a reasonable direction. I can maybe drag it out a little bit. Next keyframe again, and maybe I can, just bring that round slightly. So again, to see how that's looking now, I can go to Open Walkthrough, cycle back through the keyframes. Now, it could be looking higher as well, but we'll look at adjusting the height in a moment. So I'll just play that through one last time before I export. Okay, so you can see it's much more focused on the building rather than just following the path. So, to then turn that into a movie file, on the main menu, you can go to Export, and then Images and Animation, and then Walkthrough. Okay, and so this is again where it helps to think a little bit about the way film and TV work. So you have the resolution there, and that's the main determinant of quality. So, yeah. Oh, I'll do that in the next one. Yeah. So here I've got the dimensions, and they're set to quite a low resolution. Do you have an idea what resolutions you might be looking at every day if you're watching TV? 1080. That's right. 1080. That's what the number is. That's your height. So what's the other one? You might not notice that one. 1920. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 1920. 720 is an old one, but yeah, 1920 is HD. So let's try that. 1920. This one will change to whatever it needs to keep in proportion.
How did you get into that frame?
To export and then animation. Yep. So then the trick here, don't click down there. That's what, if you remember, I showed you last time when all pixelated. That's because I clicked down onto the zoom, and that'll just reset it. So watch out for that one. It's a little trap. That's it. Hidden line is all I'll use for now, just to give a quick one.
Is that where you would change it to realistic if you wanted to?
Exactly. That's right. Yep. And then AVI is a pretty good format, so just leave it on AVI, and I'll just leave that name even. Save. And you'll probably get a message about the compressor. Don't use uncompressed, no matter what anyone tells you. Uncompressed is for people who want to do editing. That's not going to play through very well. Microsoft Video 1 is fine, and the compression quality on 100, I've tested it plenty of times, is absolutely fine. So that's okay. So last time it was because of that resolution that the quality was a bit iffy. And now you can see it's going through much slower because it's outputting it at a higher resolution, and also it's got to convert it and then compress it. And down here you can see the progress, which might seem slow, but it's still a lot faster than rendering each frame.
If you chose to render, how long would it take?
Well, to get an idea, think about how long it takes to render a single image.
1 day times 340.
Say, yeah, that's right. Well, say it takes an hour. Say you're doing well and you've made Revit render a really high quality image quickly, which if you do it in an hour, you're doing pretty well. An hour times 300, that's 300 hours, which is, 12 days? 12 days non-stop of rendering. That's for 10 seconds. So that can give you an idea why the people who do 3D animation, the guys at Pixar and those places, are first and foremost computer geniuses before they know anything about animation. Yeah. They're great artists, but they also are pretty amazing with the technical. No, I don't think it's going to be a possibility. Yeah, unless you've got a high-powered computer. I mean, I've got a render farm at home that I render on, and it still takes me days to do animation.
So for our final project,
A lot of computers.
so for a final project, we basically need
If it's going to be rendered, yeah. Now look, there are some fix. If you get it into 3ds Max, which we'll do next term, it's a bit faster. There are some other tricks, but yeah. For now, all I'm expecting is hidden line as a minimum, or shaded, and I'll show you realistic as well. It doesn't take that much longer. Okay, so there we go. That's nearly done. Okay, so let's look at the file. Yeah, but look, it doesn't need to be a 2-minute animation on its own. Oh yeah, yeah, and no, I think we're going to skip that. Yeah. Okay, so I'll show you the. Yeah, so you just want to have it set up so you can present. That's the idea, and starting to set up the Acrobat things that you're going to do if you're clicking on, active buttons and those things to do your presentation. It's really just so you can prepare for your presentation that you're doing in the studio class. The buttons, yes. So when you've got things, and it doesn't need to be a movie that it could just be a plan or something that flies out, and those are just as effective sometimes as these animation files. So, so here I've got the animation file. It's an AVI file, and that will open with anything. If you know about VLC Media Player, that's a good free one. Yeah. So, VLC, it's a free program. Now, unfortunately, it's not doing a great job playing this back. Let's try with Media Player. People don't like Media Player because it's Microsoft, but it's actually a pretty good media player. And it's still struggling.
Why do you think that is? Because our files won't be.
Yeah, no, it's nothing to do with that. It's the video file. Let's have a look. Oh, it's a big file. That's all. So it just has to load into memory. And it takes a minute to do that. I've got a few things open. Oh, sorry.
Okay, Danny, should we all give that a go, or are we going to show us how to go up the floor?
Well, I'll just do a little bit more on that one, but we'll get this playing first, because playing video files is a bit of an art in itself. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yep. So I'll do another one and I'll show you how to change the height.
because my main one is walking right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so part of this is because I've got quite a few things open, but and the network. I think it's the network actually the main issue. So we've had problems with the network all week. 100 meg is not a big file.
So we've picked up in months, is that fair?
Well, you've got to get it working, so just test it out. Yeah, and so when you play it on your own, then you'll be able to see how it's working. You can see here it's got an issue just opening up Explorer. It's the network. Yep. All right. Yep.
Are you able to email me my results?
Yeah, I will. Yep.
You know that, yeah.
Yeah, I've got. Well, I've just got to double check because I've done, but I'm pretty sure I've got the same as everyone else.
Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Yeah, I've definitely read it. So yeah, I'm sure I marked it.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't remember. No. Yeah. It was definitely not a fail, and so yeah. No, it was all right. I think from memory.
I might see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I might come see you tomorrow about it, just so I can talk to you about what I'm going to do. I did the rendering options, probably not for the next submission, but for the one after that.
Yeah.
So I was going to do a bit of watercolour and stuff like that, and I just wanted to check all that kind of stuff with you.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, sure. Okay, no worries. Yep, sure. Okay, so all I'm going to do here is copy this from the network. You can see here it's on the U drive, which is a network drive. Copy that to the local drive, so onto my desktop. Right, so you can see there, 100 meg should take no time to copy, but we've got issues with the network, like I've been saying, and there's not much you can do about that. This should take just to my local hard drive. So we just got issues with the network. That's pretty terrible, actually, if it takes that long to copy a small file like that. Yep. It can, but I wouldn't at first. Try to do it without lighting initially, and if you get it working that way, then try turning the lighting on. Oh yeah, it'll do it just with default lights. It won't even use the lights unless you tell it to. Okay, so yes, I know about this. We've been talking with the IT guys all week about these network issues. If you notice the same thing, it's often not you, it's the network. And that's why it's good to work locally, save locally, and that's a common approach to working. Yeah, actually USBs have the same issue. So save onto a local hard drive, that's usually the fastest. Yeah, sure. Oh yeah.
Oh, cool. So we can like go up through our stairs.
Yeah, yeah. Now watch out though, sometimes the animations going up through stairs are pretty boring because stairs can be a pretty small, the stair shaft can be pretty tight and so it can be hard to see very much. But if it's a big open stair, then you can work really well. Yeah, yeah, look, it's definitely an option. And but yeah, sometimes it can be better to have several shorter animations. So one on one story, then another one on a different level. Doesn't need to be all in the one animation. So lots of short animations. And just think about the way you have movement in film and TV. It's often lots of small short shots rather than one big, long, winding walkthrough going everywhere.
So then how would you then, if you're moving up through a void,
Yeah.
how would you then turn as you're moving up? Can you do that?
Oh yeah, of course. So just the way I've had the path changing there, and then you can change the direction of the camera, and you've got complete control over the camera at each point. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so this is just crazy. 5 minutes to copy a 100 meg file. On a normal network, this should be 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Just gives you an idea. Even on my wireless network, this would be almost instant. Yeah, it's weird. We've got a really good network. It's the biggest network, one of the biggest networks in the world. But they've got bandwidth issues. So anyhow, I'll just leave that going, and because I want to show it to you. It's something that you need to see. Oh, so slow. That's ridiculous. Oh yeah, sure.
While you're waiting for that,
Yep.
could I show you something?
Oh yeah, it'll just be a second. I'll just run
sorry,
it and then I'll
Did
come
you
over and have a look at
manage to
anything.
figure out those columns?
Yes.
You did?
Yes, yep, all worked out, yep. And so actually maybe I will just quickly show you the thing with the columns, because that's something that will help you all, just while that's copying. Okay, so if you remember, or if you maybe were here last week, you might remember that the columns weren't showing in the section views in course display, and that's the way Revit is set up, because engineers are, like I've been saying, interesting people and they do things differently. So that's the way they prefer to work. I don't understand it, but that's the way they want it. Right, so if you go and place a column, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, structural columns, and I'll just put one into the view here with the default column, which is a UC, universal column. So that's your eye profile that you hopefully all know is a fairly standard steel column. Now it's not even showing because of another thing that they have set by default, which is the depth option there. I think that's a bit of a mistake actually. It's really annoying, but you have to remember, set it to height. So do you all know about this one? When you're placing columns, they'll go underground unless you choose height, and then you can set a level if you want to, or type in an unconnected height. So that's the first thing, to get the column to go up. Okay, so there we are. Now I can see the column in the plan view. So let's open it up in the section. And what do we see? Well, the column behind it is a concrete column. They display a bit differently, but this column, let's move it over, and you can see then it shows as a line. Like I said, engineers don't really care about the presentation of their drawings. Their drawings are pretty rough and technical, and they don't want to see always the actual column. They just want to be able to see the length of it. So, how do you see it? If you go to Fine, then you'll see it. Look it up on the discussion groups, and that's as far as you'll get if you go to the...
Sorry, where did you go to find?
Down here.
Oh, to find, sorry.
Yeah. Yep, so that's okay if you're happy to work in Fine, but you shouldn't be using Fine for your projects. That's going to give you too much detail and create a whole lot of other work for you, because you'll have to go and detail up your floors and your walls and show all the detail there that you don't want. You want to have it in course. That's right. So what do you do then to get the columns to show? I'll show you. Select the column, edit family, and have a look at it in your elevation view. And what you'll see then is that they've put in this thing called a symbolic line. In the front view there we can't see it, but in the left view, if I go to, well, it's hidden at the moment, and I'm not even going to unhide it, but there is a symbolic line in there. That's what you're seeing, a single line. I'm going to select the column itself and then go to visibility settings, and you'll see then it's turned off at coarse and medium. That's it. Turn it on. Yep. Now, to get rid of the line, you'll need to go into a different setting. Sorry, I can see it. That's it. Sorry, there it is. So it is in the front view, not the left view. And so we've got this grey line. Now, it's what's called a symbolic line, which shows differently to other things in Revit. It's a bit like a detail line. If you don't want it, delete it. That's what I'd be doing. Get rid of it. And so there are two of them. Delete them both. And now all you'll get is the 3D column. I don't know why it's not set up like that by default, but again, sometimes they try and work for the engineers, and you know, that's their big user base, to be honest, with Revit. So I understand it, but it's also
Can you just load it back in?
a bit frustrating. Yeah, so it's a good idea. Save it with your own in your own folder, and that way you can always get back to it. Load it back into the project. Here we are. Overwrite existing version, and there we go. I've got a 3D column, and it will always show that way whether I'm in coarse, medium or fine. And well, that little trick you won't find anywhere. I was searching through discussion groups and all sorts of things, but luckily remembered something from years ago that I learnt in Revit. So here we go. Now if I go back to that video on the desktop, it should be behaving. Let's try and open it up from the local drive with, well, I'll try a VLC. Still going a bit slow. There we go. So let's get this thing working. Okay, so there we go. You can see playing in real time. So that is the real speed, 15 frames a second for 300 frames. And so you can see that the main determinant of the quality is that resolution. In fact, that's the only thing you should be changing. Don't change any of your compressor settings or any of those things. Just choose the Microsoft video compressor. Don't change the quality of that compressor because it will just make it go slower, and change the resolution only. Okay, so I'll leave it at that for that one, and then we can do the changing of the height and other things in another video.